Question number 126. If an electrician performed work on a property and was not paid, how can they recuperate that loss if the property is then sold? Letter A, by having a mechanic's lien placed on the property. Letter B, by having a super lien placed on the property ahead of a tax lien that had already been filed. Letter C, by suing the owner for non-payment resulting in a lis pendens. Letter D, both A and C. Question number 126. If an electrician performed work on a property and was not paid, how can they recuperate that loss if the property is then sold? And the answer? Letter D, both A and C. So letter A here is having a mechanic's lien placed on the property, and letter C is by suing the owner for non-payment, resulting in a lis pendens. A lis pendens is Latin for litigation pending. All right, lis pendens, litigation pending, and that sort of puts a placehold in time so that when the judge hears the case ultimately, they can backdate the mechanic's lien to the day of the filing of the lis pendens. So lis pendens isn't itself a lien, it's a notice of possible future lien. And then the mechanic's lien is the type of involuntary lien that's placed on the property. So if you're a contractor, equipment lessor, surveyor, somebody in the building trade, you can get recompensed if you don't get paid by placing a lien known as a mechanic's lien or a material man's lien. Some states or some test writers might call it that. That's the old school way of onto the property. So this is a good way to understand what a mechanic's lien is and sort of how that process works. Question number 127. Which of the following is not one of the three types of depreciation used in the cost approach? Is it letter A, economic obsolescence? Letter B, functional obsolescence? Letter C, proprietary deterioration? Letter D, physical deterioration? Question number 127. Which of the following is not one of the three types of depreciation used in the cost approach? And the answer is letter C, proprietary deterioration. All right, so the cost approach is found in the appraisal section of your textbooks. It is one of the three methodologies that an appraiser is going to use to determine value, the cost approach. There's replacement cost, there's reproduction cost. You'll read about those and review. But what's something that we do, sort of illuminate in the courses is this thing about depreciation. Now, this is depreciation pertaining to a loss in value for, valuation purposes. And there are three types of depreciation or losses in value. One is economic, sometimes called external obsolescence, depending on the test writer. One is called functional obsolescence, and one is called physical deterioration. Now, remember, physical deterioration is curable or incurable depending on the cost. Functional obsolescence is also curable or incurable. If you're unfamiliar with those phrases, look them up. You're going to want to know those for your exam, curable versus incurable. And then economic obsolescence, or external obsolescence as some call it, is always incurable. So you want to know those little bits and pieces. An excellent question to get you acclimated with the cost approach and depreciation. Question number 128. Which of the following statements regarding lead paint is false? Letter A, a lead paint disclosure must be provided for all homes for sale built prior to 1978. Letter B, lead paint poses a danger when it is chipping or flaking. Letter C, exposure to lead paint can be dangerous for young children. Letter D, a lead paint disclosure must be provided for all rental properties regardless of when they were constructed. Question number 128. Which of the following statements regarding lead paint is false? And the answer? Letter D. A lead paint disclosure must be provided for all rental properties regardless of when they were constructed. Okay, the big date for lead is 1978, so homes built prior to 1978 have a high probability of containing lead, and therefore the law still states that you need to disclose the lead disclosure or give the lead disclosure for those particular instances, whether it be a sale, whether it be a rental in many states, like in Massachusetts. So letter A, letter B, letter C. This question was looking for what was a false statement regarding lead. And letter A, letter B, letter C are all true statements. As a matter of fact, these three things are good to know for lead paint, generally speaking, if you were to get tested on it. And then letter D, we do not have to provide this disclosure if a property was built, in the year 2000, in the year 1979, 1980. So we're good to go, and we don't have to give it then. We only have to give it for properties built prior to 1978. Question 129. The most all-inclusive type of real estate ownership is it letter A, life estate, letter B, non-freehold estate, letter C, fee simple absolute estate, letter D, defeasible fee simple estate? Question number 129. The most all-inclusive type of real estate ownership is... And the answer? Letter C, fee simple absolute. Okay, you're going to find these topics inside of interests and real property. And you'll be learning phrases like freehold, leasehold, encumbrances. You'll be learning phrases like fee simple, life estates, and all of the different types of non-possessory interests or non-freehold estates. You're going to learn about all of these different variants. So I would pay attention. Many times instructors might compose a chart. We do in our programs where I kind of detail how it all kind of splays out and what it all looks like and stuff like that. But you want to know that. Now, fee simple absolute is the absolute highest form of ownership in the United States. It is a type of freehold estate. Fee simple means it continues on with no limitations. You can do what you want within the framework of the law. A defeasible fee simple estate means it has some kind of deed restriction. So letter D is some kind of deed restricted property. So the most all-inclusive type of real estate ownership is letter C, fee simple absolute. Non-freehold estate is the same as saying a leasehold estate. And a life estate is a freehold estate, but it has limitations. Upon the death of the life tenant, the property could revert back to the original grantor, or it could go to some other party. And as you might have learned in some of your real estate courses, that's called per autre vie. So here in the United States, fee simple absolute is the highest. Question number 130. Which of the following types of ownership is held by a person who is granted a lifetime use of a property, which will then be transferred to another party upon the death of the lifetime user? Letter A, a leasehold estate. Letter B, a life estate. Letter C, a reversionary estate. Letter D, a joint tenancy. Question number 130. Which of the following types of ownership is held by a person who is granted a lifetime use of the property, which will then be transferred to another party upon the death of the lifetime user? And the answer? Letter B, a life estate. Now, just one fine point, they might call a life estate a life tenancy. You can use those phrases estate and tenant interchangeably, and that's an important distinction to make. Some writers might call it a life tenancy, and some writers might call it a life estate. So that's number one. Number two, this is textbook definition of what a life estate is. Again, you will see these in the interests in real property. A reversionary estate is simply an outcome of a life estate. It could revert back. There's another one called a remainder estate. A joint tenancy is a form of ownership. That's not what they're talking about here. And then a leasehold estate is a non-freehold estate that is less than freehold. So here, this is an ownership interest in the property. Okay, it's held. Ownership is held by a person, then is granted a lifetime use. Ownership is held. So when it says that, it's not a leasehold estate, and therefore the only answer here is B, life estate. Question number 131. The main difference between joint tenancy and tenancy in common is that with tenancy in common, when one of the co-owners die, their share, letter A, passes to the other co-owners. Letter B, passes in full to their heirs. Letter C, is divided between their heirs and the surviving co-owners equally. Or letter D, passes to the other co-owners automatically, becoming a tenancy by the entirety. Question 131, the main difference between joint tenancy and a tenancy in common is that with a tenancy in common, when one of the co-owners die, their share and the answer, letter B, passes in full to their heirs. This is something that I've mentioned before in previous questions, that the tenancy in common has zero right of survivorship, no right of survivorship. And no right of survivorship means that when a co-owner passes, remember, tenants in common have more than one owner, right? More than one owner. Joint tenancies have more than one owner. Tenancies by the entirety have more than one owner. Or if you own it by yourself or a corporation owns a property, it could own it in severalty or sole, right? If you have more than one, myself and a partner, and on the deed it says myself and my partner on as tenants in common. If it says tenants in common, then therefore we have no right of survivorship. If my partner passes, then my partner's interest goes to their or her estate. So it goes there. And then my interest stays with me in my estate. Now, had this been a joint tenancy, that has a right of survivorship, which means upon the death of either joint tenant, then the ownership interest goes to the surviving joint tenant. Okay, so right of survivorship, this is what they're talking about here. So what the test writer did here was they approached right of survivorship by not stating those phrases to kind of see if you remembered why it would pass in full to their heirs. Passes to the other co-owner, that would mean right of survivorship. So A and B are contradictory. A is not the correct answer. Letter C is divided between their heirs and the surviving co-owners. That's not true. Letter D, passes to the co-owners automatically, becoming a tenancy by the entirety. Remember, tenancy by the entirety is only for married couples. Therefore, it would not in this particular scenario. So this is just incorrect as well. The answer here is letter B. Question number 132. According to HUD standards, which of the following would be an acceptable phrase in a real estate advertisement? Letter A, exclusive neighborhood. Letter B, walking distance to public transportation. Letter C, comfortable senior housing. Letter D, a wonderful family neighborhood. Question 132, according to the HUD standards, which of the following would be an acceptable phrase in a real estate advertisement? And the answer? Letter C, comfortable senior housing. So we can exclusively advertise senior housing. And remember, housing for senior folks is exempt from familial status discrimination. There was also an exemption for senior-specific property, over 55 communities. So we can advertise, okay, to do so, comfortable senior housing. However, the other phrases, exclusive neighborhood, walking distance to public transportation, and wonderful family neighborhood is in violation of familial status, of disability, and of protected class status. So we want to know that these three, A, B, and D, are not acceptable in advertisements. It would be acceptable to say comfortable senior housing. And now many of your textbooks will have in the anti-discrimination units, it could be labeled as professional practice. It could just be straight up anti-discrimination. Whatever you are studying, check for HUD's approved guideline. Many times HUD, the publishers will post HUD, which stands for the Department of Housing and Urban Development, their guidelines as to what is acceptable, and certain phrases are acceptable and certain are not. And there's some phrases that might be a little standing out to you that say, wow, how could that be okay? But it's still okay to say that. So comfortable senior housing is okay to say. So you want to make sure you understand what is okay to say and what is equally unacceptable. Just read through that list once or twice and you'll get the gist. Question number 133. When a buyer enters into an exclusive buyer's agency agreement with an agent, that agent owes the seller, letter A, loyalty and obedience. Letter B, honesty. Letter C, confidentiality. Letter D, all of the above. Question 133. When a buyer enters into an exclusive buyer's agency agreement with an agent, that agent owes the seller, And the answer, letter B, honesty. Okay, so what happened in this scenario is that the buyer and their agent, the buyer's agent, enters into an exclusive buyer's agency agreement, which means that this agent now owes a fiduciary obligation to the buyer. And if you only are representing the buyer, then the other side that now you're working with becomes the customer. And you owe customers, professionalism, honesty, fair dealings, that kind of stuff. And because of that, the only one here that you owe them is honesty. These other ones, letter A is fiduciary obligation, loyalty and obedience. You owe that to the buyer, not the seller. Confidentiality, you owe that to the buyer, not the seller. And all of the above is not an answer. So honesty is what you owe the customer, and the seller becomes the customer in this scenario because the buyer enters into exclusive agency agreement with a buyer's agent. Question number 134. A bill of sale is provided in order to, letter A, pass title to an individual property. Letter B, record the satisfaction of a mortgage. Letter C, terminate a joint tenancy agreement. Letter D, none of the above. Question number 134. A bill of sale is provided in order to, and the answer? Letter A, pass title to an individual property. A bill of sale is provided in order to pass title to an individual property. Question number 135. Which of the following is a way to terminate an appurtenant easement? Letter A, abandonment by the owner of the dominant estate. Letter B, the owner of the dominant tenement purchases the servient parcel. Letter C, when the purpose of the easement becomes unnecessary. Letter D, all of the above. Question number 135. Which of the following is a way to terminate an appurtenant easement? And the answer? Letter D, all of the above. Okay, easements are on real estate exams, period. Appurtenant easements, all kinds of easements in gross, servient tenements, dominant tenements. You want to know easements by necessity, prescriptive easements, all of these different types of easements you are going to see. Now, you also need to know how to terminate an easement. It is on all state outlines that I've ever looked at. I've looked at every single state outline that's available for all the real estate examinations all over the United States. I've looked at them. I'm a geek, and it's on there. So you want to know what it takes to terminate an easement. And this is an excellent question because it's showing you these are 3 reasons why you can terminate an easement. There's several of them. The one here, the owner of the dominant tenement purchases the servient tenement, that's called merger in some books. So sometimes they'll call that merger. And then abandonment by the owner of the dominant estate. And then when the purpose of the easement becomes unnecessary or abandonment, that's also a reason for the argument of the termination of an easement. So you want to know these for your test. Question number 136. When an appraiser uses several techniques, including reviewing market data, analyzing cost, and utilizing the income approach to determine a property's value, they are using the process of, letter A, tax assessing. Letter B, reconciliation. Letter C, comparable market analysis. Letter D, loan-to-value comparison. Question number 136. When an appraiser uses several techniques, including reviewing market data, analyzing costs, and utilizing the income approach to determine the property's value, they are using the process of, and the answer, letter B, reconciliation. So what an appraiser does is once they've, approached the valuation opinion through this market data approach or the sales comparison approach, then they'll also back it up with income approach, and then they'll back it up with the cost approach, secondary backups to substantiate the value based off of the type of property being valued and which one carries the most weight. Then what they do is they kind of reconcile This is a process. The process of reconciliation means that we review the market data, the analyzing costs, and utilizing the income approach to determine the property's ultimate value. By reconciliation, we help to fortify and to substantiate the value or our opinion of value at that moment. This is all in the appraisal section, by the way. Question number 137. Which of the following is not one of the four government powers relating to real estate? Letter A, eminent domain. Letter B, taxation. Letter C, equitable title. Letter D, escheat. Question number 137. Which of the following is not one of the four government powers relating to real estate? And the answer? Letter C, equitable title. Okay, so just so you know, there are four government powers. And regarding the four government powers, we have this little cheat sort of initialisms called PETE. P-E-T-E. Police power, eminent domain, taxation, and escheat. Well, here's eminent domain. Taxation is another one, and escheat is another one. So police power makes up the fourth one. You know, police power is like zoning, comprehensive plans, those types of things. So PETE is a way that you can memorize the four government powers. And all of our ownership rights, from the freehold absolute, fee simple absolute, all the way down to the encumbrance and the liens and the licenses, all of us are subject to police power, eminent domain, taxation, and escheat. Question number 138. If a minor enters into a contract to purchase real estate, which of the following is true? Letter A, the contract is voidable. Letter B, the contract is void. Letter C, the contract is illegal. Letter D, the contract is enforceable for both parties. Question number 138. If a minor enters into a contract to purchase real estate, which of the following is true? And the answer is letter A, the contract is voidable. It is voidable by the minor, okay? So many times you will see that on exams. It's voidable by the minor or the mentally incapacitated party. It may be parts of it be enforceable for the person that has capacity. So it's not always the case. But when a minor enters into a contract, then the contract, it would be voidable. In other words, on its face, it's legitimately written, but because one of the parties or both lack capacity to enter into a contract, therefore that makes it voidable. All right, so minor, connect the word minor, entering into, and voidable. That's the way to go. It's not void, and it's not a contract that's illegal. It just becomes voidable. Question number 139. A defining characteristic of the meets and bounds legal description is that letter A, monuments cannot be used as reference points. Letter B, it includes the township and section number. Letter C, it begins and ends at the same point. Letter D, all of the above. Question number 139. A defining characteristic of the meets and bounds legal system is that, and the answer, letter C, it begins and ends at the same point. They actually call that the point of beginning, and it equals the point of end. So sometimes I'll just refer to it as the point of beginning. The POB equals the point of end, the POE. So point of beginning equals the point of end. Now, the meets and bounds description, being one of the oldest ones, does use a phrase called monuments. Monuments are fixed objects that are referenced inside of the description, like the old rock, the iron rod, the marker, that kind of stuff. It includes townships and section numbers. That's not for meets and bounds. Townships and sections is for the government survey method. And then all of the above would not be correct. All right, so that's how this breaks down. You want to know your legal descriptions. You'll see them on examinations. There are three legal descriptions. There's meets and bounds, lots and blocks, and then the government survey. Question number 140. Land is considered to be unique because no two pieces of land are identical. This means that real estate is letter A, non-homogeneous. Letter B, alienated. Letter C, scarce. Letter D, homogeneous. Question number 140. Land is considered to be unique because no two pieces of land are identical. This means that real estate, and the answer is letter A, non-homogeneous. So you want to know that non-homogeneity and that phrase equals unique. And because real estate, no two parcels are identical, they both occupy a different space, they are not the same. And because they're not the same, then they are unique. Another fancy way of saying unique is non-homogeneous. Question 141. Agent Mark lists a home for $450,000 and charges the seller a 6% listing fee, which is to be split equally with the cooperating brokerage. If Mark has a 60-40 split with his broker and the home sells for the asking price, how much will his commission be on the sale? Is it letter A, $16,200, letter B, $13,500, letter C, $10,800, letter D, $8,100? Question number 141. Agent Mark lists a home for $450,000 and charges the seller a 6% listing fee, which is to be split equally with the cooperating brokerage. If Mark has a 60-40 split with his broker and the home sells for the asking price, how much will his commission be on the sale? And the answer is letter D, $8,100. Okay, so some of the math here is this is all straightforward, this particular question. You want to make sure some of the phrases that can be misleading. Well, first off, we want to know that 6% of the 450, well, 1% of 450 is $4,500. So it would be 4,500 times 6. That's the entire listing fee. And then it says, which is to be split equally with some cooperating brokerage firm. What they mean there is that if Mark works at, let's say, firm A, any other firm, let's say it's hypothetical firm B, this is a cooperating brokerage firm, some outside brokerage that brings a buyer to the transaction. That's what they're talking about there. So a cooperating brokerage means some other outside firm. So the deal here is that we split this commission 50-50 equally. So it said split equally, that's 50-50 between. So firm A is going to get 3%, firm B is going to get 3%. Okay, so that's just sort of breaking it down. So that leaves 3% for firm A, which is what Mark works for. Then we have to go and say, well, Mark's split happens to be a 60-40 split with his broker. So in this particular instance, Mark is going to be getting 60% of the commission and the brokerage firm takes 40%. So we're really just now looking at this firm A, the firm that Mark is affiliated with, and what's left over with the 3%. And when you do the mathematics, you get $8,100. Question number 142. Which of the following is true about the FHA? Letter A, an FHA loan always requires a higher down payment than a conventional loan. Letter B, the maximum LTV ratio for an FHA loan is 90%. Letter C, the FHA does not make loans, it insures loans. Letter D, FHA loans cannot be sold on the secondary mortgage market. Question number 142, which of the following is true about the FHA? And the answer is letter C. The FHA does not make loans, it insures loans. Okay, the FHA stands for the Federal Housing Administration. It is a loan insurance program. This is something that does not lend, it makes insurance. It insures loans. It insures banks against default. So this is insuring a bank against default. not the consumer. It's insurance that the consumer pays for in the form of mortgage insurance premium that says, hey, bank, make a risky loan. And by the way, the maximum LTV, that stands for loan to value ratio, the maximum LTV can go, in some instances, over 100%, but standard classic FHA is 3.5% down payment. That means that the standard FHA loan can go above 90%. It goes up to 96.5% LTV, loan to value. An FHA loan always requires a higher down payment than a conventional loan. That's not true. A conventional loan is going to typically want, if you don't want mortgage insurance, at least 20% down. The FHA loan's down payment is going to be as low as 3.5% down payment. Okay, so that's not true, letter A. And then letter D, FHA loans cannot be sold in the secondary market. Absolutely not true at all. The secondary market that purchases them are Ginnie Mae and Freddie Mac. So you learn about those in your real estate courses. Look up finance, secondary mortgage market. Definitely study items on the FHA and the VA, as you will see questions on exams all over the United States regarding those two programs. Question number 143. A tenant's lease expires on April 30, and they request an extension from the landlord, which is denied. On May 1st, they have not vacated the rental unit and sent their normal monthly payment to the landlord on the first of the month as usual. This is an example of letter A, tenancy at will. Letter B, tenancy at sufferance. Letter C, tenancy for the years. Letter D, sublease agreement. Question 143, the tenant's lease expires on April 30th and they request an extension from the landlord, which is denied. On May 1st, they have not vacated the rental unit and sent their normal monthly payment to the landlord on the first of the month as usual. This is an example of, and the answer, tenant at sufferance, letter B. Okay, so we want to know some of these leasehold estates. We want to know a little bit about all of them. You're going to learn about these in interests in real property, non-freehold estates or leasehold estates. And you want to know the definition of a tenancy at will and a tenant at sufferance. Another word that you see for tenant at sufferance is holdover tenant. And what's happened here is the tenant held over. They were supposed to be at April 30th. On May 1st, they're still there. They have not vacated, and they decided to tender 1 month, their normal monthly rent payment to the landlord on the 1st, even though the landlord denied their extension of the tenancy. The minute the landlord denies extension and they send the same payment, now whether it was accepted or not by the landlord is not in this scenario, but what they're identifying here is a tenancy at sufferance. Now, sometimes they call it a holdover tenant, because in this case, on May 1st, they held over and extended their stay beyond when they were technically supposed to be there till. All right, so that's known as a holdover tenancy, or, depending on who writes the question, a tenant at sufferance. Question number 144. An involuntary lien that has been filed to give constructive notice and is attached to a property may be a, letter A, primary mortgage. Letter B, secondary mortgage. Letter C, habendum clause. Letter D, judgment lien. Question number 144. An involuntary lien that has been filed to give constructive notice and it is attached to a property may be a, and the answer is letter D, judgment lien. Okay, so primary mortgage and secondary mortgage, those are just mortgages, right? So they kind of threw you off a little bit here, maybe primary mortgage market, secondary mortgage market, like you were thinking along those lines. Habendum clause is a clause inside of a deed or a contract, the to have and to hold clause. So that is not an involuntary lien. And the only involuntary lien that's listed here out of A, B, C, and D is a judgment lien. Remember, a judgment is a court decree. A court decree is an involuntary lien. All right. So a mortgage is a voluntary specific lien. So let's say they said primary mortgage. Let's even say you bought there. A mortgage that's placed on a property is voluntary. So is a second mortgage. So these are both voluntary. Habendum clause is just not a lien, and a judgment lien is the only answer that you can pick here, letter D. Question number 145. Which of the following is a true statement regarding documents for the transfer of property? Letter A, a deed is used for the transfer of personal property and a bill of sale for real property. Letter B, a bill of sale is used for the transfer of personal property and a deed is used for real property. Letter C, a bill of sale can be used for either the transfer of real or personal property, but a deed can only be used for the transfer of personal property. Letter D, none of the above are true. Question number 145. Which of the following is a true statement regarding documents for the transfer of property? And the answer is letter B. A bill of sale is used for the transfer of personal property and a deed is for real property. So all a bill of sale is a receipt to personal property or personalty or chattel. A deed is a document that signifies the transfer of real property. So in real property in the law, those chapters in books, you're going to typically find this stuff. You need to know what a bill of sale is, and it's for personal property, and a deed. The other ones, letter A here, a deed is used for the transfer of personal property. Not true. A deed is used for the transfer of real property, and a bill of sale is for personal. So this was the wrong answer. This is opposite of B. And letter C, a bill of sale can be used for either the transfer of real or personal property. Not true. But a deed can only be used for the transfer of personal property. Not true. Complete inaccurate statement, letter C. And then none of the above are true is out of the realm of applicable, and we have letter B here. Question number 146. An exclusive right to sell listing agreement that is obtained by an agent belongs to letter A, the listing agent only. Letter B, the managing broker only. Letter C, both the listing agent and the managing broker. Letter D, the listing agent and the seller. Question number 146. An exclusive right to sell listing agreement that is obtained by an agent belongs to, and the answer is letter B, the managing broker only. So all listings are owned by or obtained by or belong to the managing broker of the firm. The managing broker has the listings. So the firm has the listings, and any exclusive agreements or arrangements are all, when they're done by an agent, still belong to the firm. So it's all about the firm, not about the listing agent. So here, letter C says both the listing agent and managing broker. Nope. The listing agent only. Nope. That's incorrect. So is C, and the listing agent and the seller. So all A, C, and D all list the listing agent, if you notice there. And then letter B is the managing broker only. So the answer here is managing broker only. That's who controls, and basically the listings belong to. Question number 147. What is the primary goal of Fannie Mae's and Freddie Mac? Letter A, to provide insurance for mortgages backed by the government. Letter B, to provide liquidity and stability to the mortgage market. Letter C, to keep home loans out of the secondary mortgage market. Letter D, none of the above. Question number 147. What is the primary goal of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac? And the answer is letter B, to provide liquidity and stability to the mortgage market. Okay, so in finance sections, one of the things you learn about is the secondary mortgage market. And there's three players that you typically need to know. You need to know Fannie Mae, FNMA, the Federal National Mortgage Association, Freddie Mac, FHLMC, the Federal Home Loan Mortgage Corporation, and then Ginnie Mae, GNMA, which is the Government National Mortgage Association. These are the three primary players in the secondary market. Their prime job is to provide liquidity and stability to the mortgage market. So primary lenders make loans to consumers, and then the secondary market buys these loans from the lenders, and then they chop them up, place them into all kinds of different risk like levels. They call them tranches, and then they sell them off in the form of debts and stock. So you want to know that they provide liquidity and stability to the mortgage market. They're backed by the government. And they help to continue making the mortgage money available in the market so that people can borrow and buy. Question number 148. Unless otherwise stated, the subsurface rights of a property, letter A, must be transferred separately from the rest of the property. Letter B, can only be sold with the surface rights of the property. Letter C, are automatically transferred with the sale of the property. Letter D, must remain within the bundle of rights. Question number 148. Unless otherwise stated, the subsurface rights of a property, and the answer is letter C, are automatically transferred with the sale of the property. So subsurface rights are also referred to as mineral rights. All right, so this is something that you might also see as a substitution. Mineral rights. So you want to know the subsurface rights. Now, unless otherwise identified, in sort of the contract, in sort of the jurisdiction, there could be laws that say that the government has access to any subsurface or mineral rights or something like that. Then if none of that is said, then it is to be assumed, right, that they are automatically transferred, just like everything else is, with the sale of the property. All right. Can only be sold with the surface rights of the property. That's not true. Must be transferred separately from the rest of the property. That's not true. That could be jurisdictionally specific, and must remain within the bundle of rights. That's not necessarily true as well. However, are automatically transferred with the sale of the property unless otherwise stated. Question number 149. A clause in a mortgage contract that gives a lender the right to demand the entire loan balance be paid in full immediately due to the borrower's default or violation of loan terms is called, letter A, a balloon payment clause. Letter B, an alienation clause. Letter C, an acceleration clause. Letter D, an amortization clause. Question number 149. A clause in a mortgage contract that gives a lender the right to demand the entire loan balance to be paid in full immediately due to the borrower's default or violation of loan terms is, and the answer is letter C, an acceleration clause. Okay, these clauses are very popular. Acceleration clause, this is like a textbook definition. Number one, it's a clause in a mortgage contract that gives the lender the right to demand the entire loan balance to be paid in full immediately. Now, many times students learn about a type of mortgage loan called a balloon mortgage, and a balloon mortgage is where the entire balance remaining is due. That's not because of default. That's just the way that the loan is structured. So this is not based on default. This one is, though. Letter C is based on default. And it says here in the question that there's a default due to the borrower's default or a violation of the loan terms. All right, now there's an alienation clause, and alienation means to transfer. So that's a transfer clause that says, if the consumer or the borrower sells the property, then the lender wants their money back. But that's not a default or a violation. That's called the alienation clause. That's also super duper popular on real estate exams. So if I were studying, I would want to know what an alienation clause is. I would want to know what a balloon payment is. And I would want to know what an acceleration clause is. This is super high probability style on real estate examinations. You will find these phrases in the finance section of your textbooks, or just search our videos for acceleration clause. If you've taken any of our programs, we have a pretty awesome searchable database for video learning, okay? Question number 150. A listing broker has brought a ready, willing, and able buyer to the seller, and their seller accepts their offer to purchase. In most cases, the listing broker has earned the right to their commission when, letter A, the sale closes. Letter B, the seller signs the offer. Letter C, the seller backs out of the contract. Letter D, all of the above. Question number 150. A listing broker has brought a ready, willing, and able buyer to their seller, and the seller accepts their offer to purchase. In most cases, the listing broker has earned the right to their commission when... And the answer is... Letter D, all of the above. So, when it comes down to earning a commission and we've brought a ready, willing, and able buyer to our seller and the seller accepts the offer, then in most cases, the listing broker has earned the right to their commission. Not their commission, but the right to make their commission, right? That's important. Letter A, when the sale closes, they have the right to earn their commission. Letter B, when the seller signs the offer. So upon signing the offer, as a matter of fact, that's when technically the listing agent has earned their right to a commission because the buyer and the seller have entered into a meeting of the minds to close the transaction, moving towards the end, right? So like that's also a way. And then letter C, the seller backs out of the contract. So the seller, once they accept a ready, willing, and able buyer, well, the listing agent or the selling agent has done their job. They've brought a ready, willing, and able counterparty to their seller, and they've entered into a contract. So the seller backs out for no good reason. No good reason. All right, no good reason. Well, then the agent can also potentially sue for a commission and they've earned their right. Okay, so the answer here is all of the above. This is a very good style question, and this is a scenario that you could easily see on a real estate exam. I could see that happening. So study this one. It's a good one.